Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Janet Yung. In my channel, I cover about Chinese metaphysics subjects like Bazi, Fengshui, as well as entrepreneurship and personal growth in the areas of leadership, communication, and motivation. In today's episode, I'll be covering the second part of how you can basically select a potential new home to find out whether it is suitable for you as well as your family members. So if you do like this particular episode, please do subscribe to my channel, like the video, as well as click on the notifications bell so that you can receive a reminder whenever I upload new videos. In today's episode, I'll be utilizing the formula 8 mentions or Bazi to see whether a potential new home is suitable for you. In the previous episode, I talked about utilizing Google Earth to help you see if a landform of a potential new home is suitable for you. So if you missed the previous episode, please click on the link that I point out above to watch the episode before you carry on with this one. In today's episode, where I cover about utilizing the 8 mentions or 8 aspirations formula, we'll be using the compass to look at the floor plan of a home to see whether some of the critical and important sectors of the home are present. And I'll share with you in the next segment as to what is critical when looking out for in terms of a sector using the 8 mentions formula that each of us should not miss out if we want to have a good stay or good feng shui in the potential new home that we have. So I'll see you in the next segment. Let's take a look at the Ba Gua, where we actually have got the 8 directions as well as the 8 aspirations. Traditionally, we will call these also the Bazi formula. In the Bazi formula, there are basically 8 directions on the compass itself. The 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, and the 4 secondary directions, northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest sectors. So each of these sectors represent different areas in our life, or what we call aspirations, and is something that is crucial to check out when you're actually looking at a potential new home. When we look at this as to whether is it an auspicious or inauspicious sector of the building or floor plan of the new home, we will be exploring it from your personal qua basis, or based on the year of birth, your personal good as well as unfavorable directions. And this is what we call the qua number. Let's take a look at it from the 8 aspirations perspective first. When we look at this particular Ba Gua, like I mentioned earlier, there are 4 cardinal directions of north, south, east, west, and 4 secondary directions of northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest sectors. Now, in each of the home, which I'll show you a little later on, you will see the floor plan where we plot in the various sectors. And there are a couple of key sectors that we need to look at for selecting a new home. Usually, the northwest sector represents basically the patriarch or the father of the family. And if it's a couple that is actually basically looking at purchasing this place, the northwest sector should not be missing. It should not be in the service balcony, it should not be in the kitchen especially, and it should also not be in the toilets, because it will represent some missing luck, especially in terms of helpful people for the father of the family. And it will not be great for couples' relationship as well when the father is not doing well. The next important sector in a home that we are looking at when you are purchasing is the southwest sector. The southwest sector generally represents the mother or matriarch, and it also represents basically relationship within the family. So most times, if the southwest sector of a potential new home is missing in the kitchen, service balcony, or the toilets, what I find is actually relationship within the family is less harmonious. So it is one critical component that we must make sure that it's not missing or afflicted by being in the toilets when we are selecting a potential new home. Of course, there are the other sectors like North representing career stability, East representing health, West representing fertility, luck as well as savings, South for recognition, Southeast for wealth generation, as well as Northeast for education. All these other sectors are important, but it can be somehow or rather activated either when we look at the Flying Star Feng Shui or something that we can activate when I do a consult for my clients. But for today, I'd like to just focus on some of the critical sectors, like for example, the Northwest sector and the Southwest sector, so that you can have a better understanding when selecting a potential new home for yourself as well as your family members. So I would like to next cover on the floor plans of how you can basically plot the 9 directions or 9 sectors into your home. Here is a floor plan that we have drawn out with the 9 boxes or the 8 aspiration grid. Usually when we take a floor plan, we will take the maximum width and maximum length and split it into either 9 equal squares or 9 equal rectangles. Now of course there are other masters who will utilize the compass in terms of a pie chart. So it's an individual's preference, I leave it to you. But usually for ease of understanding for my clients, I use basically the 9 grid chart that you see here. Now you can then stand either in the center of the home, okay, as shown in the slide, or you can determine the facing direction of your home to decide what are the various different sectors. So in this case, once I've determined the facing of the apartment is actually east, I put in the first square east, and then I fill up the rest of the other sectors as can be seen in this particular slide. So for this chart here, I think the Northwest sector as well as the Southwest sector is still present. So it is not too big of an issue if my client decide to select this particular unit. Now let's take a look at another chart. In this case, this chart here has a pretty odd shape. The Northwest sector is actually intact in one of the rooms. However, the Southwest sector is partly missing and partly in the kitchen. Usually in such a case, I will advise my clients probably to rethink whether they should be selecting this particular flat, mainly because Southwest being in the kitchen, number one, it will affect the relationship within the family as well as the health of the mother unless they don't cook so often in the kitchen. And two, with part of it missing, at times for some of my clients that I've seen is maybe the mom's health will be affected or the mom has to be traveling a lot such that she is seldom around in this particular home. So as you can see that I've shared so far, the 8 mentions formula generally tells us what's going to be like for the entire family when they are staying in this particular home. So when a sector is missing or afflicted, it will generally affect the luck of the occupants within the unit itself. The next that I'd like to look at is actually based on individual qua, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of their year of birth, what are the favorable directions they should be selecting when selecting a new home. Therefore, to do that, please go to bazicalculator.janetyong.com or scan the QR code here so that you can basically get your Bazi chart and your favorable and unfavorable directions. So in this chart here that we have generated, you can see at the bottom left of the chart, there are the favorable and unfavorable directions for this person born with a qua number of 8. Most of the time, if possible, I'll try to select such that the apartment is facing one of the favorable directions of the key family members. From this particular chart, you will see that there are 9 different qua number groups. We have what we call the East group and the West group. The East group are the numbers of 1, 3, 4, and 9. And their favorable directions are usually north, south, east, and southeast. And we have the other group, which is the west group, which consists of the qua numbers of 2, 5, then depending on male or female, 5 can be a 2, 5 can be an 8 for a female, 6, 7, and 8. They belong to the west group, and their usual favorable directions are the secondary directions of northeast, northwest, west, as well as southwest. So let's then take a look at some examples of how we should be choosing an apartment based on the individual's favorable and unfavorable directions. When we're looking at a landed property, most times the door would usually be the same facing as most of the windows. So that would be the facing direction of the house or landed property that you are looking at. Now what happens if sometimes the door is actually situated to the side of the main house, whereas like the living balcony or most of the windows are opening to the front of the house? Then I will usually take where most of the yang energy, or what we call the wind or energy, that enters the house from, and that's usually from the living balcony, from the windows that is towards the front of the house, because the side door may be facing a wall, for instance. What about that of the HDB flats, for example, in Singapore, or if you are looking at any high-rise buildings? Usually I'll take the entire facing of the building if the opening is at the ground level, where windows are not open up in the various different levels. However, if it is like a HDB in Singapore, most times I will take the facing of the apartment unit itself, especially if they are at the 9th level or higher, because that's where most of the energies will be coming in from. Now, then let's take an example where maybe you are qua number 3, belonging to the east group. So most of the time I would select a facing of the building, sleep with my head pointing towards one of my favorable directions of south, north, southeast, and east. And the direction that I will try to avoid the most would be that of the west, because it represents total loss or 绝命 in the Mandarin phase. So like I mentioned earlier, I will ensure that my house does not face west. And when I'm checking out a site plan, I will make sure that the apartment block or the apartment facing is not facing west. If I'm the owner of the flat, I may have to sleep in the master bedroom. One of the key things I will also avoid is having to sleep in a master bedroom that is within my total loss sector. For instance, like I mentioned earlier, for the person, in case his or her qua number is number 3 and total loss direction is west, besides making sure that the apartment block is not facing west, I will also ensure that my master bedroom is not within the west sector, especially if my head have to sleep with it pointing towards the west, as shown in this particular example here. Now what happens if you have family members, especially the husband and wife, coming from 2 different groups, an east and a west group, where the directions are directly opposite? Then normally what I would do is to ensure that at least they are not facing their worst direction, or what we call the total loss direction. Now, when trying to determine the facing of the apartment, especially high-rise buildings, it can be a challenge. So in the next episode, I will cover on how you can determine an apartment facing and utilizing the formula of flying star to see what is a suitable home for you. In the meantime, if you do like this video, please do click on the subscribe button to my channel, like the video, and share it if you find that it's been helpful for you, as well as click on the notifications bell so that you will receive a reminder whenever I upload new videos. So till next week, goodbye.